String representation of an object. Exploring the stir method versus the repr method. You can define an __str __ method, the stir method. It should return a formatted string representation of the object. In this example, we have a class named employee with attributes name, salary, and position. You can define the stir method to create a sentence. The name is the position and earns a particular salary a year. And so you see what happens if we create an employee object for Andy, who makes $50,000 a year. And we call the print method here and pass imp as an object, as a parameter. It will call the stir function. And so the result will be Andy is a staff and earns $50,000 a year. Some collections, such as lists, call the repr function on their contents when they are turned into strings. So instead of calling the stir method, it will call the repr method. In this demonstration here, the class employee does not only has the stir method defined. It does not define the repr method. So when I create a list of different employee objects and I just say print that list, it actually will call it. It does not define the data for the employee. It doesn't have it doesn't show the employee information in a readable format. However, if we look at each individual employee object, then you'll see that it will call the stir method. So we're going to have to define the repr method in addition to the stir method. We've defined repr, or we've discussed repr when we had to reveal hidden characters. For example, if we're opening a file and we choose read line, we say print repr for representation here. It's actually going to do each individual character. It'll return the printable string representation as objects. And it shows the hidden characters. The /n is a new line character. And so if I say the length of line 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, the new line character counts as one individual character. So we can define the repr method. So in our class here, you see I included __ repr__. And here instead, I'm creating a string formatted in a way that can be used to initialize a copy of the object. So you see that I will have the name of my object. And just like I'm going to pass a name parameters here. Employee name equals Able, salary equals 12,000, and position equals staff. You see, just like I would create an object, that's the format of the string that I want to have that repr be. Okay, so I create a list of employees, and now it defaults to calling the repr for each one of the objects. And then I can explicitly call the repr by going to a particular element in the list, 0, and then call the then call the repr function. Well, sometimes if your string has special characters in it, here I have an apostrophe in it, or maybe a new line character in it, what you have to do is that it may generate errors if you don't get the representation of that string to include all the special characters. So here I want the special character, the apostrophe here, to be included. And so in this repr function, for name, instead of just printing the name, I said, give me the representation of name. Okay. And for each of those strings, it'll get some of those hidden characters. Okay. I can use repr and eval methods to copy an object. So I get the string that represents an object, and then I call eval on that, and it'll actually it'll evaluate that. It'll actually create an object of that string the way it's formatted. Okay, so I've defined an employee that has the init. I have commented out the string in the repr, the stir and the repr methods here. And if I just call employee, I create an employee object and call print, you'll see that it does not, I did not define a stir method, so it didn't, I don't have a string representation of that. But if I come in and uncomment that method definition and run it, you'll see that Andy is a staff and earns $50,000 a year. So it fills it in correctly. Now, if I want to create a list of employee objects, and I have not yet defined the repr method, I run this, and you see that for the list, it calls the repr function for each object in the list. And if I uncomment this out and I run it, you'll see that it actually goes through and will call this repr method to format this string for the employee. I can explicitly call the repr method. And then here I'm demonstrating that you can create an object, then call the repr method to get the string representation of it, and then call eval. And it's actually going to create a new object. All right, so the very last thing here is that Cody O'Neill is staff and earns $12,450 a year. And the class is an employee class. Your job is to define a class named book that has a title, author, and publisher's attributes, and define the string and or the stir and the repr methods. So you're going to create a book object, and notice that there's special symbols here. I do a slash apostrophe here because I want that Python character there. Here is the same as this apostrophe here. I want you to see that I want that apostrophe to appear. Okay. I then can create a copy of this book and change the title to coding. Then I can print both books. And the name Jimmy O'Hare should be the author for both. All right, and my solution here is I define my stir method to have the title written by the author. Okay. And then I define the repr method to have creating a new object book where the title equals and displaying the actual title. And then the author equals and displaying the author. And then the saying publisher equals and displaying the publisher. And I use the repr function, built-in repr function that will display the escape characters, the apostrophes and so forth for the different strings. So when we use str and when we use repr, well, the str is used for creating output for the end user. However, for debugging purposes and development, you use the repr. You're going to be using that to create copies of objects as you write your code.